High on government's agenda of strategic priorities in 2014 was security and justice for all Jamaicans. The Ministry of Justice was government's lead machinery for achieving one half of that target, even while supporting the other. This is the 2014 Year in Review for Justice. In 2014, government successfully tackled an aggressive legislative agenda. Critical laws were passed to help the country meet its IMF obligations and economic reform program.
The bill seeks to move the framework for banking business closer to the governing international standards in this area.
There was also support for the crime-fighting effort and government's strategic priority focus on social inclusion for vulnerable groups.
Today, joy fills the heart of many Jamaicans across this country, especially those within the community of persons with disabilities.
Among others for which it was the main architect was legislation for ganja reform. Both the Senate and House of Representatives passed legislation in the second half of last year, making it possible for persons charged with possession of or smoking small quantities of marijuana to have their criminal records cleared.
It establishes a criminal records rehabilitation board which reviews all applications for expungement, and expungement is discretionary, it is not as of right.
Legislation was also drafted to decriminalize the possession of small quantities of ganja and allow the possession and use of ganja for scientific research as well as for religious and medicinal purposes.
The proposed changes represent an approach which will inure to the benefit of the persons concerned and the society as a whole and reduce the burdens on the court system.
Cabinet also approved revision of the Dangerous Drugs Act to legally grant licenses for the development of local medical marijuana and industrial hemp industries under a controlled regime. Beyond the legislature, several programs were pursued in 2014 to reform the justice system. In November, the justice system received the lion's share of a €46 million grant from the European Union.
This is important in advancing gender-responsive, accountable and effective justice services, especially for vulnerable groups.
Earlier in the year, Cabinet approved replacing the Court Management Services with a new body, the Court Administrative Division. It's to serve as the independent body responsible for providing efficient and effective administrative and management services to Jamaican courts.
The proposed changes would add significant value to the work and effectiveness of the judiciary, will reinforce judicial independence, and will enhance the quality of justice being administered to the Jamaican people.
In May, Cabinet also approved the reform of the jury system. It calls for several changes that will broaden the number of persons eligible to serve as jurors, deter persons from refusing the service, and protect the interests of those who serve.
Drafting instructions have been issued to the Chief Parliamentary Council for the preparation of the required legislation.
The Justice Ministry's 2014 calendar also included initiatives to expand court facilities and enhance courtroom operations.
Today we are not only handing over this facility to the Chief Justice and the judiciary and the administrators of the court, but to the people of St. Thomas and its environs, of Morant Bay and its environs, whom it will serve.
The new Morant Bay Courthouse was completed in July at a cost of $45 million. In the year, 3 additional courtrooms were also provided at the Supreme Court in downtown Kingston, increasing the number to 15. And Minister Golding received 29 computers for deployment in the court system under the Justice Undertakings for Social Transformation JUST program. To boost personnel, 5 judges were sworn into higher office by Governor General Sir Patrick Allen at King's House. They were appointed to serve as judges of appeal, puisne judges, and master in chambers. Meanwhile, 331 justices of the peace were sworn in. Last year, the ministry also continued developments under its restorative justice program to keep more cases out of the court system.
Restorative justice requires offenders to take responsibility for their actions and for the harm that they have caused. It seeks redress for victims, recompense by offenders, and reintegration of both offenders and victims within their communities.
60 persons were trained as restorative justice facilitators, and in a move that jointly supported the strategic priorities of human capital development and national security, the ministry drafted a trafficking in persons curriculum that will be taught to students in grades 7 to 9. The manuals were handed over to the Ministry of Education in November.
The infusion of human trafficking into the secondary school's curriculum will ensure that over the next few years, every child who comes through the formal education system will be aware of the issue of human trafficking. This will substantially decrease their vulnerability.
The Ministry of Justice in 2014, advancing Jamaica's legislative portfolio, speeding up the process of justice, and supporting upward social mobility.